Hey everybody, it's Nerdy30. Wanted to jump in real quick and say thank you for joining me for another video. This is episode 1 in a series I still haven't titled yet, but the premise of this series is I have been collecting pre-built gaming computers for a few years now, just hoarding them away for the idea of this series. In essence, we're going to take these old systems, clean them up, get them running, test them as is against today's most popular games here in early 2026, and we're going to see if it's feasible to put a little bit of money into them and see if we can bring these old systems back to life. And we're going to start off with a little bit about the system, go over system specs, get into the benchmarks, and then part 2 will be after I've updated the system with some upgraded parts. We'll go over what I upgraded, what's changed, and then we'll re-benchmark the system to see if it really is feasible to find one of these dinosaurs and give it a second chance on life. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so the first system of episode 1 is going to be an Alienware X51 Revision 3, or R3 for short. The R3 came with a LGA 1151 Skylake processor, supports DDR4 memory, came with either an internal 240 watt power supply or an external 330 watt power supply, and came with the graphics card options of a GTX 745, a 950, or an AMD R9 370. Our system today has an i5 6400 CPU, 4 cores, 4 threads, has the GTX 745 4GB DDR3 version, comes with 8 GB of DDR4 RAM at 2133 MHz, and had a launch price of $1,199. The system originally came with a 1TB 7200 RPM Western Digital Blue hard drive, but unfortunately that drive failed, which I covered in a previous video about playing Fortnite on a potato PC. I have since replaced that drive with a WD Blue 1TB SSD, and everything is right as rain now. So as usual, my first thing I do with the system after I get it back to operational use is I like to stress test it. This system unfortunately came to me broken, and I did not realize it until I got it fired up. It sounded like a jet engine was taken off, and upon further inspection it turned out that 2 of the posts for the CPU cooler had broken. The plastic that held the retaining post was broke, and the CPU cooler was just hanging on by 2 legs and not adequately cooling the system. So between that and the failing hard drive, the system really wasn't that usable. I have updated the potato PC video with a short after I replaced that hard drive, and you'll see that we've got much better performance. Now Unigen here shows 10 FPS at 1080p Ultra. That was just to make sure everything was going to hold up to stressful situations, and it passed with flying colors. The first game we're going to test today is CS2. This game ran pretty okay. It was a little stuttery until I started to mess with the settings, and as you can see here, I think we're playing through the training level. You have to forgive me, I forgot to get an FPS counter on here, but as you'll see that I ran into some bots, ran into some mission objectives, and it was pretty playable. You know, would it be a competitive experience? Maybe. If I had to say, I believe this was probably running at 60 frames per second, if not a little bit higher. It was really smooth after the first 15-20 seconds, and as you can see, everything, you know, there's no lagging, there's no stutters, there was no massive resources popping in. So I was actually pretty excited to start off with a good benchmark. Next up is Fortnite. This game, without a doubt, was the best running game in today's benchmark suite, and I was really surprised with how well the system performed. As you can see here, we're using 1080p performance settings, render distance was far. Resolution scaling was set to 75%. The drop-in was running about 45-ish FPS while the map loaded and the game was establishing everything. But you can see shortly after we land, we go right up to 60 FPS, and other than the occasional drop to maybe 58, we were locked right up at that 60 FPS counter. Now, I did have the frames on this locked to 60 FPS because if you go back and you watch my last video and the short that I uploaded today about Fortnite running on an old computer, you'll see the before and after and me playing with different settings. The before is when I had that 7200 RPM that the system came with that was not that was failing. It was hindering our performance. What you're seeing now is all on the new solid state hard drive, and it's made this computer absolutely playable. One thing I wanted to point out with the benchmark measurements to the left, which is just the Steam or the Windows built-in, our CPU usage is definitely not being utilized here with to its full potential, which performance mode tries to shift the load off of the graphics card, which even in performance mode, if you watch, most of the time the graphics card usage is above 90%. But as you can see, played a full game. You know, you'll see all the way through. I cut out a lot of the filler and put in action and stuff, and I was really happy with the results that we got out of this. I would totally feel confident recommending this system or having somebody use this system to play Fortnite on. And I really think a RAM upgrade and a newer, better graphics card, something with GDDR5 or better VRAM, will absolutely breathe some new life into this system. Next up is Hogwarts Legacy. This is where we really start to see the limitations of the graphics card. If you notice, once again, in the system monitoring specs up in the top left corner, the CPU is barely doing anything, and the graphics card is the weak point right now. Hogwarts Legacy was on both the Steam and SystemLabRequirements.com's popular games list, and it represents I believe it's a 2 to 3 year old AAA title. And unfortunately, we were right around consistently around that 20 FPS. I played into the campaign a little bit where the tutorial, and it really never got above 20, which for games like this, usually I guess the industry standard is typically considered 30 FPS for it to be considered playable. But once again, between that RAM and that GPU usage, I think those are the two areas we need to address in part 2 that I think would make this game playable. I had high hopes for this game, and completely unrelated, I actually waited for this game to come to the Nintendo Switch because I wanted to be able to play it mobilely, and I was so disappointed in how poorly it performed on the Switch that I've actually never played this game. My daughter loves this game, but I have never actually played it. Next up on our list is GTA 5 Legacy Edition. I wanted to use GTA 5 the Enhanced Edition, but unfortunately GTA 5 Enhanced would not launch with the graphics card. Apparently the graphics card does not have the applicable instruction set to run the enhanced version, so I opted to use the Legacy version, which is still widely played and still very popular. I did play off screen for the sake of keeping the video not terribly long, and we were averaging right around 30 to 35 FPS on normal, which is the lowest settings possible, and it was perfectly playable. Really didn't notice any stutters or anything, but I think I would have no issue playing GTA 5 on this system. If you like how I'm trying to keep the videos under that 15 to 16 minute mark, please leave a comment down, let me know if that's about the right length. I know if you go back and you look at some of my videos in the past, I have just gone way longer than that 15 to maybe 20 minute limit, and I think that sometimes I get a little long-winded. So I'm trying to keep these videos shorter, down to that 15-minute mark is kind of my ideal limit that I'm going to be trying to hit from here on out. But as you can see here, we had a pretty constant 30 FPS. I think that this would be perfectly playable as is. Now, this system was tested at 1080p. I don't test different resolutions. I try to keep it uniform through all the benchmarks. And finally, we tried Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a very common game that people still play and use for benchmarking. And as you can see, the game would load, but after about 30 seconds, the game would close. No matter how many times I tried to run this, I could not get Elden Ring to work. And I think that's about as far as we're going to get with the GTX 745.
And there you have it, everybody. We've come to the end of our first episode. I wanted to say thank you once again for giving me your time, and I really hope that the video that I put out was up to your liking. The video was a little shorter than I intended it to be. Now, I'm not trying to test every game under the sun because there's multiple hundreds of thousands of computer games. I got my list of games between some of the most popular games I found on the Steam library as per the Steam app. Then there's a website I like to use called mysystemlabrequirements.com. It scans your computer, it takes a hardware scan, and then it compares it to the minimum and the recommended specs to games. And I use that website because it's a great way to show if the computer is close to being able to run that game that you want without actually having to buy it. I used their most popular games list as well, and some of the games that were in like the top 20 on both lists I had in my Steam library. Now, if there's any games that you would like me to add to the benchmark suite, let me know. Leave a comment down below. We can grow the channel together. And I was going to be ordering some parts this week for it. If you don't remember, we're going to upgrade the computer to see if we can try to get it into modern specs enough to where we can still use it in 2026. I was very impressed with the machine, and I did have some hiccups to overcome, but we got there, and I was very happy with the performance, especially in Fortnite, which as is, this computer I believe would be perfect for just an esports computer if you had like a young kid who was looking to get into gaming or something. And with maybe some tasteful upgrades, we can get into more of those mainstream AAA titles. So once again, if you liked what you saw, please give the video a like and subscribe, and leave me a comment, and then turn on that bell notification so you will get notified when part 2 drops. I'm trying to get a video out once a week. I'm trying to get more active into the channel. So if you like budget computer tech, video game stuff, please consider giving the channel a like. Once again, I'm Jake from Nerding in My 30s. I'm Nerdy30, and I'm signing out.